Coming up, an Arkansas woman meets a tragic end after a fatal car crash. And McDonald County celebrates Veterans Day with a fun day in Pineville. Also, Pitt State hosts its Veterans Day celebration after a 2-year hiatus.
The 4 states' most watched news starts now.
Good morning and welcome to the KOAM Morning News. It's 5 a.m. I'm Tanya Bach. We'll get to those stories in just a minute, but first let's go to Michael Hayslip in the Skywatch Weather Center.
All right, Tanya, we are done with our Friday morning rain. It is a chilly one out there, though. 43 is where we stand over 7th and Range Line, feeling like 38 right now. Temperatures in between 39, our low point in Monette, and we do see a 45 out there in Veneta. Everybody else squarely in between. It's not a wide variety of temperatures, but still, once again, for the second consecutive day, cooler than what we had the previous morning. There's what we have got left of our rain. Now, the radar's been a tad bit finicky this morning, and the fact that that lighter rain just south of I-44, that's not all hitting the ground. But look at down here, what we've got on the eastern edge of southwest Missouri, especially through Berry and McDonald County. We got a good old-fashioned downpour. It's going to last here for, say the next half an hour, 45 minutes. So for those of you who are getting ready to leave immediately down to the south or head to the south, that's what you're going to run into. But if you can just give it about an hour, she'll be done, because even though what we see right here, it is not going to go west to east, is actually going to drop down to the southeast. So just because we've got more coming through Oklahoma right there, it shouldn't affect us too much. Weather trend for today, going to be cold, cool, I should say. I know some of you like cool weather, and so I don't want to call it cold, but the high 40s, low 50s is where we will stand. There it is, diving off. Then as we get ready for a high school football Friday night, oh my goodness. So we're dropping down below the freezing mark. We'll have wind chills about 7 o'clock for kickoff, say about 33 degrees.
Ooh.
Yeah, so it's interesting. We've got a couple teams here at home. We've got Lamar, Webb City, Carthage all staying at home. We've got one team that's rolling through South Central Missouri. We've got 3 teams that are ours in Kansas that are rolling up to Wamego, Silver Lake, Rock Creek, St. George, that area. Here's the thing. It doesn't matter where you go.
It's going to be cold.
The temperature up here in northern Kansas is going to be the same as it is down here in South Central Missouri.
Really?
And yeah. The temperature is going to be cold.
Bundle up.
There you go.
Wear layers. Do what you can. Keep moving. All right. Thanks, Michael. A Gravette, Arkansas woman is dead after a crash in southwest Missouri. The Highway Patrol says Robin Ford drove off the road on Interstate 49 west of Neosho and hit an embankment. Ford died at the scene. No other cars were involved. A Newton County man accused of shooting at deputies pleads guilty. Benjamin Ivy pleaded guilty to unlawful possession of a firearm. 2 other charges were dropped as part of the plea deal. Ivy is sentenced to 7 years in prison. 5 Oklahoma Republican state lawmakers want Governor Kevin Stitt to grant clemency to Julius Jones, who is scheduled for execution next week. Among the 5 are 2 state House members representing the Oklahoma suburb where Paul Howell was shot to death during a 1999 carjacking. Jones was convicted of Howell's killing and sentenced to death, but he has long maintained his innocence. Jones alleges he was framed by his co-defendant, who testified against Jones and served 15 years in prison. The Oklahoma Pardon and Parole Board voted 3-1 to recommend that Stitt commute Jones' sentence to life in prison. People across the country are honoring our nation's heroes this Veterans Day. McDonald County hosted a Veterans Day ceremony in Pineville. The event featured a free dinner, VIP speakers, and fireworks. There was also a special announcement. Veteran James Tatum was inducted into the Missouri Veterans Hall of Fame. Carthage natives served heroically in the Korean War as an Army officer, and later, as a civilian, helped found Crowder College.
I think it's a pretty big deal. I mean, nothing like this has ever happened. To put it into perspective, General John Gordon, who was a former Secretary of Homeland Security, and the 33rd President, Harry Truman, are also in this Hall of Fame with Jim, so that's a pretty big deal.
McDonald County celebration took place in the Pineville Square. Folks in Joplin got a little more hands-on to honor our local veterans. The Joplin Area Habitat for Humanity is honoring a local vet by providing them a place to stay. Habitat yesterday dedicated a new home to Tim P. and his family.
But today, there's nothing in the world that can replace the feeling of having hundreds of people come out to visit you that don't know your first name. Come out to show their appreciation and to say thank you.
The home will be constructed using ICFs, or insulating concrete forms. ICFs are a sustainable construction method. Yesterday was a Veterans Day, of course, and for many communities and organizations, it's the first time in the pandemic era they could hold traditional Veterans Day events. That was the case at PSU. The university hosted its ceremony for the first time since 2019 with veterans and families in attendance.
It's a special day that we need to remember and take time to appreciate what we have, the sacrifices that soldiers and individuals, both on the civilian side but also in the military, that serve our country on a daily basis, whether domestically or abroad.
This year's keynote speaker was Pittsburgh Fire Chief Dennis Riley, who is a U.S. Army veteran and was at Ground Zero on 9/11. In Fort Scott, the Tourism Board decided to cancel this year's parade, but the American Legion Post 25 was not going to let that happen. The Post took over the parade and yesterday hosted it for area veterans and their families.
No matter where you served and what time you served, you're a veteran of our armed forces, and there's a bond and a fellowship that goes together. It just exists.
American Legion riders led the parade on their motorcycles. Commerce, Oklahoma teenager known as the Powerhouse Princess was recently featured on a Canadian reality show where she went head-to-head with other athletes from North America. Our very own Bronte Sorotsky went to the Relentless Gym in Commerce, Oklahoma, where Demaya Smith, otherwise known as the Powerhouse Princess, trains. She gets that name from her background in powerlifting and love of dressing up and wearing makeup, even when training at the gym. Recently, Demaya was featured on the competitive reality show All Around Champion, where she was able to meet athletes from all over North America and try out completely different sports.
I've gotten a lot of popularity from being in my sports, so sometimes shows would reach out to me, and I happened to get on All Around Champion, and it was a crazy experience. It was so amazing. We did so many different sports, and I was learning like how to fence and play hockey. It was crazy, and I would not change it for the world.
Now that she's back in Oklahoma, Demaya says she's going to continue training and competing with the goal to one day be an MMA fighter professionally in the UFC. We'll have more from Demaya later in this half hour. It's 5:07.
Yeah, she's a heck of an athlete. It's been fun to watch her grow up. If this is any indicator, you got to forgive me for the rest of the show. I just lost a button off my jacket.
Oh.
So, forgive me, folks. Casual Friday has officially begun because
It's the bottom button you're supposed to leave undone, not the top.
that looks ridiculous.
Yeah. Well, can you move the bottom one to the top so you can still use it?
Then I would have to take off a button during the. I'd be lucky to have this done by next Friday.
True. Well, I don't expect you to do it right this moment.
Oh, I thought you meant.
Like,
I mean, I can
yes,
probably.
during your next break, I want you
Right,
to remove
during a
a
commercial
button.
break, I will be sewing. If we can bring the Singer 5000 down from the control room and set it up here. Also, too, I will be needing needle and thread. And by the way, Dylan, can you bring me the pattern so I can finish off the prom dress that I'm in the midst of? Thank you. I appreciate that. Chilly one today. At least we get some sunshine, high around 48 degrees. Overnight, dropping down below the freezing mark. Going to pop up some frost advisories and freeze warnings by the time it's said and done. Sunshine over the weekend, but cool temperatures as we stay in the 50s, sans buttons.
We do our best. It's Friday. That's a look at this morning's top stories and weather in our first 7 minutes. Coming up on the KOAM Morning News, the Gorillas look to finish their season on a high note this weekend against the Fort Hays State Tigers. Plus, New Zealand's Prime Minister gets Zoom bombed by her toddler. We want to know, have your kids ever embarrassed you in public? And Saturday marks World Kindness Day, and researchers say small acts of kindness can actually make you healthier. We'll explain. You're watching the KOAM Morning News. More real news in the morning. We'll be right back.
Final week of the season for the Pittsburgh State Gorillas as PSU hits the road on Saturday. It's week 11 facing Fort Hays State. Now, Fort Hays fighting for a winning record as it heads into the weekend 5-5. Pitt State stands at 7-3. PSU lost a heartbreaker to Washburn last week with the Ichabods blocking a late field goal to preserve a 2-point Ichabod win. Pitt State, though, regrouping, trying to send their seniors out the right way this weekend.
We were all really upset losing that football game. Let's be honest, that was one, and as they all are, but we understood the implications of that one and how important that was. I knew it would take some time here this week to really get our guys back because it's very draining emotionally. And but our guys understand the importance of playing together one last time. They understand the importance of playing together and playing well for this senior group.
I mean a lot. They've done a lot for us. They were the class before me, so I've known them since I've been here really. And then a few other guys that jumped in as well. We've gotten really close, so it'd be a really big deal to send them off with a win.
This season's already been a historic one for the McDonald County football team. And now, tonight, a chance to add to it and win their first district title. Our own Danny Terzer with the Mustang story.
It's mid-November, and the McDonald County Mustangs are still at work.
It kind of hits you this week after the time change. You're practicing under the lights, and that's kind of when it hits you that we're playing a long ways into this season, and we haven't really had time to sit and think about what we've accomplished up to this point.
The Mustangs are one win away from the school's first district championship.
We definitely want to be known as the first team to win a district championship, and I mean, we just got to play like we have one more guaranteed, and we just got to put it all out there.
I don't think it's really hit a lot of us seniors yet because, we're still in it. We're still striving to go farther, and, we just want to go as long as we can, keep playing as long as we can.
The final team in their way is West Plains.
We've got to win the physical battle, especially in the trenches. That's where we've kind of made our focus each and every week, and this week's going to be no different. It's a football game like the rest of the year's been, and the most physical team is probably going to walk off the field with a win.
The Mustangs faced a rigorous Big 8 schedule, but they're 10-1 and prepared to keep going.
That regular season schedule, that conference schedule, just prepares you for playoff play, and it's a tough week each and every week, and you've got to show up. If you don't bring your A game every week in our conference, you've got a chance to get beat, and so it really prepares you for what's ahead.
They've come a long way, but the Mustangs are still hungry for more.
We're pleased, but we're not satisfied yet. We definitely set some big goals at the beginning of this year, and we're getting a chance to accomplish them.
We ain't done. We're going to go try to finish this thing.
At McDonald County High School, Danny Terzer, KOAM Sports.
McDonald County kicks off against West Plains tonight at 7 p.m. We were talking during Danny's great story right there. West Plains mascot is the Zizzers, Zizzers, and their logo is a lightning bolt. Kind of unique down there in South Central Missouri. Fort Scott Community College announcing, of course, the termination of its football program earlier this week as the Greyhounds played their final game of the season, a 63-2 loss to Independence. That was in the Jayhawk Conference playoffs. Fort Scott program has been around nearly a century. Has struggled the past few years. Team 3-19 in their last 22 games. In that press release that came out earlier this week, school cited multiple reasons for terminating the program, including lack of resources. We caught up with Athletic Director Tom Havron to talk about the school's decision.
Football is certainly a very expensive sport. It certainly takes a toll on an institution and budgets more than others do. Not just because of the number of students that program brings in, but also the resources that it takes to get every student what they need. It was difficult, but we took a while to be able to look at every single possible situation to see if we could keep this here, and it was just something that was not sustainable.
Still to come on the KOM Morning News, the COVID pandemic causing another global impact. We'll take a closer look at just how much damage the pandemic has wrought on our world's oceans, and a check on our 7-day forecast from the KOM Morning News returns. As we get ready to roll into the weekend, I tell you what, cooler temperatures are definitely here and here to stay. 43 degrees is where we stand over 7th and Rangeline, with a little bit of a wind chill already in effect. Feeling like 38 degrees. We're anywhere from 41 in Monette and Yates Center, 42 in Miami, and gradually increasing up to 43 right now in Pittsburgh. Still hanging on to a little bit of rain down south of I-44. Haven't had any lightning or thunder. The heaviest rain just about to depart Berry and Delaware counties. Everything dropping off to the southeast, so we don't have anything behind it. A little light rain up there in the northern portion of southwest Missouri, but really this thing's going to drop through, not the accumulation number certainly that we had the other day. As far as what we're looking at on our weather trend, it's going to be a chilly one this afternoon and evening. Highs in the high 40s. Overnight lows going to drop down below the freezing mark. Freeze watches in effect for Northeast Oklahoma. Time now to turn our attention to the KOM News Now Facebook page and our morning Insta poll. New Zealand's Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern, well, her family's viral. That's because her toddler crashed a live press briefing, and it was classic. Ginny Moose shows us how it happened.
The baby of New Zealand's Prime Minister used to sleep through her mom's press conferences.
What was it like giving birth? Oh, no, okay.
But now, Jacinda Ardern's daughter Neve is 3 years old enough to crash the Prime Minister's Facebook Live briefing.
For business. You're meant to be in bed, darling. It's bedtime, darling. Pop back to bed. I'll come and see you in a second. Sorry, everybody.
Sorry. We love kitty interruptions. Good thing Grandma was around to help.
Thanks, Nana. Well, that was a bedtime fail, wasn't it?
Hard to call it a fail when these moments go so viral. Remember the BBC interview when a professor had to fend off his daughter, followed by a second child making an entrance, and finally Mom skidding in?
Pardon me.
And now it's happened to the leader of a country.
Does anyone else have kids escape like 3-4 times after bedtime?
On Sky News, it was an escaped son begging for biscuits.
Sorry. 2 biscuits. Yes, you can have 2 biscuits.
And this New Zealand cabinet minister ended up struggling with her son over a carrot. A vegetable the minister later described as a deformed carrot shaped like a male body part. Obviously, a prime minister doesn't just answer to the voters.
Oh, it is. I'm sorry, darling. It is taking so long. Okay. I'm sorry, everyone. I'm going to just go and put Neve back to bed.
And it's better to use a carrot than a stick. Ginny Moose, CNN, New York.
Either Facebook or KOMNewsNow.com/vote. Take your pick. As we get ready to roll into the weekend, I tell you what, cooler temperatures are definitely here and here to stay. 43 degrees is where we stand over 7th and Rangeline, with a little bit of a wind chill already in effect. Feeling like 38 degrees. We're anywhere from 41 in Monette and Yates Center, 42 in Miami, and gradually increasing up to 43 right now in Pittsburgh. Still hanging on to a little bit of rain down south of I-44. Haven't had any lightning or thunder. The heaviest rain just about to depart Berry and Delaware counties. Everything dropping off to the southeast, so we don't have anything behind it. A little light rain up there in the northern portion of southwest Missouri, but really this thing's going to drop through, not the accumulation number certainly that we had the other day. As far as what we're looking at on our weather trend, it's going to be a chilly one this afternoon and evening. Highs in the high 40s. Overnight lows going to drop down below the freezing mark. Freeze watches in effect for Northeast Oklahoma. Time now to turn our attention to the KOM News Now Facebook page and our morning Insta poll. New Zealand's Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern, well, her family's viral. That's because her toddler crashed a live press briefing, and it was classic. Ginny Moose shows us how it happened.
The baby of New Zealand's Prime Minister used to sleep through her mom's press conferences.
What was it like giving birth? Oh, no? Okay.
But now, Jacinda Ardern's daughter Neve is 3 years old enough to crash the Prime Minister's Facebook Live briefing.
For business. You're meant to be in bed, darling. It's bedtime, darling. Pop back to bed. I'll come and see you in a second. Sorry, everybody.
Sorry, we love kitty interruptions. Good thing Grandma was around to help.
Thanks, Nana. Well, that was a bedtime fail, wasn't it?
Hard to call it a fail when these moments go so viral. Remember the BBC interview when a professor had to fend off his daughter, followed by a second child making an entrance, and finally Mom skidding in?
Pardon me.
And now it's happened to the leader of a country.
Does anyone else have kids escape like 3-4 times after bedtime?
On Sky News, it was an escaped son begging for biscuits.
2 biscuits. Yes, you can have 2 biscuits.
And this New Zealand cabinet minister ended up struggling with her son over a carrot. A vegetable the minister later described as a deformed carrot shaped like a male body part. Obviously, a prime minister doesn't just answer to the voters.
Oh, it is. I'm sorry, darling. It is taking so long. Okay. I'm sorry, everyone. I'm going to just go and put Neve back to bed.
And it's better to use a carrot than a stick. Ginny Moose, CNN, New York.
Either Facebook or KOMNewsNow.com/vote. Take your pick.
Discover the best kept secret in Joplin and join a winning team at Amcor. Amcor Flexibles is looking to hire warehouse drivers starting at $18.41 per hour, maintenance techs starting at $27.58 per hour, and operations partners starting out at $21.91 per hour. Apply today at AmcorTeamJoplin.com.
That's not bacon, it's sausage.
Whoa.
Behold, Johnsonville sausage strips. Sausage that looks and cooks like bacon. It's a meaty miracle. Find them in the bacon section, even though they're sausage.
Mahindra, the official tractor of Tough at Lambert Tractor. Get 0% interest on select models during our fall savings event. Buy a tractor as tough as you at Lambert Tractor in Galena, Kansas.
Olson's Ace Hardware can help you get an early jump on your shopping list this year with Ace Red Hot Buys. Check out these popular DeWalt tool options, special priced at $99.99 or $139.99. Extra seating is also on sale. 6-foot folding table for $32.99 and chairs for just $12.99. Don't miss the great buy on select kitchen small appliances, all for just $9.99. Call ahead for curbside pickup or delivery. Olson's Ace Hardware, serving Parsons for more than 60 years and now Coffeyville.
We all know fresh, healthy food can be healing, but it's not always accessible or simple for those who need it most. So we created a place that's changing that. Amanda Bell's Farm at Cox Health. It's the right thing.
Due to a CBS special report, the programs Lucky Dog and Innovation Nation did not air at their regular times. They are scheduled to air this Saturday, November 13th at 11 a.m. and 11:30 a.m. right here on KOAM TV.
Topping Health Watch this morning, Saturday marks World Kindness Day, a chance for people all around the globe to do something good for someone else. Naomi Ruckham shows us how one artist is spreading kindness and why it can make all of us a little happier.
Then I'll come with the black and paint over the black.
Jason Naylor's mantra is kindness.
The work that I do makes me feel good, and I want to share that with other people.
Through vibrant colors on walls across the country, his message shines bright.
When someone walks by this mural, what do you hope they see, feel, think?
When people see my work, when they walk by it, I want them to feel joy. I want it to kind of pull them from their troubles.
You don't have to be an accomplished artist to spread the word this World Kindness Day. Kindness.org research director Dr. Oliver Scott Curry says even a small gesture can go a long way.
We found that some of the simplest things are seen as the kindest and most effective things to do. Simple things like just checking in with someone and asking how they're doing, surprising someone with their favorite things.
A recent survey from Kindness.org and Verizon found a high capacity for kindness across the United States, with Americans listing covering a shift for a coworker, cheering up a family member, or calling a friend to encourage them as the top kind acts you can plan ahead. Acts of kindness don't only make others feel good. Research shows being kind makes all of us happier and healthier.
It's been shown to lower blood pressure, to reduce social anxiety, and to boost our immune systems. There's also research showing that helpful people are healthier and live longer.
So while this weekend will be an opportunity to share and promote that joy,
The world needs it, not just Saturday, but always.
it's also a reminder we don't need a special day or reason to be kind. Naomi Ruckham, CBS News, New York.
In honor of World Kindness Day, artist Jason Naylor and collaborator Mansell Lindsay are taking their mural to the blockchain. The piece will go up for auction on an NFT platform, and half of the money raised will be donated to kindness.org. That's a look at some of today's top health stories. You're watching the KOAM Morning News. Coming up, an Arkansas woman meets a tragic end after a fatal car crash. And McDonald County celebrates Veterans Day with a fun day in Pineville. Also, Pitt State hosts its Veterans Day celebration after a 2-year hiatus.
The 4 states' most watched news starts now.
Good morning and welcome to the KOAM Morning News. It is 5:30. I am Tanya Bach. We'll get to those stories in just a moment, but first let's go to Michael Hayslip.
About 5-10 degrees cooler right now than what we've experienced even yesterday morning. Remember, yesterday we had a 20-degree drop. So if you want to factor both of those in, go back to, say, Wednesday morning. We're about 25 to 30 degrees colder this morning than what we had middle of the week. But still, clear skies, and it's going to be a delightful day. As temperatures right now over 7th and Rangeline in Joplin. You can tell the intersection is still wet from the residual rain that we had overnight. 43 degrees is where we stand. Temperatures 41 in Monette, 44 in Parsons, and 43 in Pittsburgh and Lamar. There's what remains of our rain. Still hanging on to a little bit down through Berry and McDonald County. Just about to push out through Delaware County. The hardest of the rain pretty much done. And the amounts that we picked up, really just around 1/4 of an inch in the largest amounts. So nothing like what we had from Wednesday night into Thursday morning. The Skywatch Storm Tracker, from a national perspective, they've got blizzard-like conditions in the upper Midwest. So even though we're going to be considerably cooler, and we've got freeze watches in effect for our southernmost counties, I'm going to expect those to expand here by the time the day is over. But that's just where we're getting started. Because even though it's going to be a sunny afternoon, temperatures are only going to be up into the high 40s. And what that will mean is overnight, we will drop below the freezing point to the 28 for an overnight low. Anyway, busy night of high school football and just social activities in general. But please remember that even before sun sets, Tanya, we'll be talking about wind chills that are going to be about 32, 31 degrees. So bundle up tonight.
Definitely bundle up, for sure.
Oh! Because we were harping about plants at noon yesterday. Pets, we haven't talked about them. This is one of those times where overnight, if you're going out for a night on the town, bring Millie inside. It's going to be really cold out there for her.
For sure.
Don't ask why I just named the dog Millie.
Millie.
It's a good dog. I mean, I had.
Say it's a good name.
I had one. That's why I did that. That was just like,
Little Michael insight this morning.
I did. I just kind of went back in my childhood right there.
Millie. All right. That's a sweet name. All right. Thanks, Michael. A Gravette, Arkansas woman is dead after a crash in southwest Missouri. The Highway Patrol says Robin Ford drove off the road on Interstate 49 west of Neosho and hit an embankment. 4 died at the scene. No other cars were involved. A Newton County man accused of shooting at deputies pleads guilty. Benjamin Ivy pleaded guilty to unlawful possession of a firearm. 2 other charges were dropped as part of the plea deal. Ivy is sentenced to 7 years in prison. People across the country honored our nation's heroes this Veterans Day. McDonald County hosted a Veterans Day ceremony in Pineville. The event featured a free dinner, VIP speakers, and fireworks. There was also a special announcement. Veteran James Tatum was indicted into the Missouri Veterans Hall of Fame. Carthage native served heroically in the Korean War as an Army officer and later as a civilian helped found Crowder College.
I think it's a pretty big deal. I mean, nothing like this has ever happened. To put it into perspective, General John Gordon, who was a former Secretary of Homeland Security, and the 33rd President, Harry Truman, are also in this Hall of Fame with Jim, so it's a pretty big deal.
McDonald County celebration took place in the Pineville Square. Well, as you know, yesterday was Veterans Day, and for many communities and organizations, it was the first time in the pandemic era they could hold traditional Veterans Day events. That was the case at PSU. University hosted its ceremony for the first time since 2019, with veterans and families in attendance.
A special day that we need to remember and take time to appreciate what we have, the sacrifices that soldiers and individuals, both on the civilian side but also in the military, that serve our country on a daily basis, whether domestically or abroad.
This year's keynote speaker was Pittsburgh Fire Chief Dennis Riley, who is a U.S. Army veteran and was at Ground Zero on 9/11. An Oklahoma teenager has been breaking records since she was 8 years old, and she's already made a name for herself locally. And now she's taking it a step further, making herself known across the country. KOAM's Bronte Sorotsky has more on the Commerce's Powerhouse Princess.
At 118 pounds, 15-year-old Demaya Smith can already deadlift up to 285 pounds. It's how she earned her nickname, the Powerhouse Princess.
I think the name Powerhouse Princess suits me really just because I do like the glam, and even though I'm out on the mat rolling, I still have makeup on. I really like to dress up, so I feel like I'm a powerhouse and a princess. It fits.
Demaya's mom, Chris, always knew there was something special about her.
She's going to be a spitfire at something. We just didn't know what. We started her with traditional sports, gymnastics, basketball, softball, and she just wasn't advancing the way that I thought that she should. And then powerlifting fell into our lap.
Demaya's talents recently landed her a spot on the reality TV show All Round Champion, where she competed alongside other top athletes in a variety of sports.
I happened to get on All Round Champion, and it was a crazy experience. It was so amazing. We did so many different sports, and I was learning like how to fence and play hockey. It was crazy, and I would not change it for the world.
She trains at her parents' gym, Relentless Training Center.
Relentless was a vision that we had for our daughter that was brewing that we really didn't even know where we were taking it. We just knew that we needed to get our daughter the best training possible.
Even after setting world records, Demaya says she's only getting started.
Powerlifting, I'll never stop lifting in general, but I don't think I'll have very many more competitions outside of high school. With MMA, I want to take that as far as I can and hopefully go to the UFC.
In Commerce, Bronte Sorotsky, KOAM News.
Last night, Relentless Training Center hosted a free women's self-defense seminar that was open to the public. That's a look at our top news stories coming up this half hour in the KOAM Morning News. Emily Franskoski from Connect to Culture tells us about some fun family events taking place in the area. But first, Myanmar sentences an American journalist to 11 years in prison. We'll have the latest on that. But first, it's 5:37.
Sunny skies, yet cool temps to mark our Fridays. We're only going to make it up into the high 40s. And what that will present us is overnight, that freezing point that pops up freeze watches, currently sitting in our southern counties. But we'll see those expand. Nice looking weekend with plenty of sunshine, yet chilly with temperatures only in the 50s. World Watch is next.
Topping World Watch, the pandemic caused a boom in plastic waste, and much of it has ended up in our oceans. A new study reveals just how much damage PPE from the COVID crisis has done. Ian Lee reports.
The pandemic touched all corners of the earth and deep into the oceans. A new study finds the battle against COVID produced 8.4 million tons of plastic trash. From that, 57 million pounds of everyday PPE ended up in the seas.
They're getting inundated with a new source of trash, which is face masks, face shields.
Add to that more packaging material from online shopping as folks stayed at home, all of which has proven deadly to marine life.
And we think that that's likely to be an entanglement hazard for fish, for sea turtles.
Volunteers cleaning canals in the Netherlands found a fish trapped in the finger of a latex glove. Researchers say Asia has generated about 46% of pandemic plastic waste, while 22% came from North and South America combined, and 24% from Europe.
We're using more than 2 billion masks a day, these single-use throwaway items.
The study found the most waste came from hospitals. Dr. Marcus Erickson has studied the plastic problem for more than 20 years.
The pandemic is producing a lot of trash, and we're hoping that this blip in trash generation will fade as the pandemic does. Going to reuse and reusable systems is the way to go.
But if action isn't taken to either recycle or better manage the waste, researchers predict 3 million more tons of trash will pile up and stay with us long after the pandemic winds down. Ian Lee, CBS News, London.
Experts estimate another 34,000 tons of plastic waste could be dumped into our oceans before the pandemic ends, unless more environmentally friendly solutions are found. Well, breaking news from Myanmar, journalist Danny Fenster is sentenced to 11 years in prison. He was arrested while trying to leave the country in May and has been held in prison ever since. He was indicted for breaching immigration laws as well as unlawful association laws. Fenster was charged earlier this week with sedition and violations of the Terrorism Act, which are punishable each by a maximum of 20 years. The United States has been pushing for his release. The last leader of the apartheid-era South Africa has died. F.W. de Klerk was the last white president of South Africa. His party had long supported apartheid, but de Klerk became a leading agent of change in the country during his 5-year rule. He freed Nelson Mandela from prison after 27 years behind bars. Together, they worked to bring an end to the country's long history of institutionalized racial segregation. In 1993, de Klerk shared the Nobel Peace Prize with Mandela for their work to end that policy. He went on to lose the country's first multiracial, fully democratic election to Mandela. His foundation said Thursday he died at his home from cancer. F.W. de Klerk was 85 years old. That's a look at some of your biggest headlines from around the world. Let's toss it over to Michael for something to talk about.
Tanya, Danny Fenster there, he was, just a couple of months ago, he was awarded the National Press Club Freedom Award for his reporting in Burma. So, yeah, I've been keeping tabs on him. KOM News Now Facebook page and our morning Insta poll. We're discussing embarrassing incidents with kids. Chances are, if you've got some, you're familiar with things like this that'll happen. And now that we've got Zoom or Skype, you've seen a video or two of someone getting Zoom bombed specifically by said children. That's Jacinda Ardern. Well, she's kind of important. She's New Zealand's prime minister, and her 3-year-old kept crashing a press briefing that she had, which you can't blame the 3-year-old, because it dawned on me as I was watching this video. If mom and dad are home, well, they're not working, right? They're at my disposal because I'm 3. That's the way it should be. It's just absolutely great. Our question to you this morning, it's a Friday, we're having fun. Has your child ever embarrassed you in public? 60% of you. I don't vote on the poll. That was a question that was asked of me. Do I care? Do I vote? No, I don't care, and I don't vote. I read the results. But I'm going to tell you this morning, be right there. Be right there. Love you, Hayslip children. We'll be back with the news you need to know before you head out the door right after this.
Here's a check of today's top headlines, the news you need to know before you head out the door. Folks in Joplin got a little more hands-on to honor our local veterans. The Joplin Area Habitat for Humanity is honoring a local vet by providing them a place to stay. Habitat yesterday dedicated a new home to Tim P. and his family. Yesterday was Veterans Day for many communities and organizations. It's the first time in the pandemic era that they could hold traditional Veterans Day events, and that was the case at PSU. University hosted its ceremony for the first time since 2019 with veterans and families in attendance. In Fort Scott, the Tourism Board decided to cancel this year's parade, but the American Legion Post 25 was not going to let that happen. Post took over the parade and yesterday hosted it for area veterans and their families. Sheepdog Impact Assistance yesterday broke ground on a new facility that'll help veterans in times of crisis. It's called a Warrior Path Facility. PATH, P-A-T-H-H, meaning Progressive and Alternative Training for Healing Heroes. When complete, the facility in Pineville, Missouri will provide tools to help combat veterans and first responders struggling with PTSD, depression, anxiety, and other challenges. That's a check of today's top headlines, the news you need to know before you head out the door.
Even with sunshine, it's going to be a tad bit chilly today. Highs only in the high 40s, and then overnight, dropping down to the freezing point, if not below. If you've got outdoor plans, AKA if you're going to a high school football game, bundle up. Be back right after this. Welcome back to the KOAM Morning News. With the holidays approaching, we've got a slew of live events. We're so fortunate to have wonderful performers here right in our backyard, and so fortunate to have an organization like Connect to Culture that not only supports them, but also brings us wonderful classes, events, ceremonies. And we're going to dive into some of those as we approach the holidays. We're fortunate enough to be joined by Emily Frankowski, our good friend from Connect to Culture. Emily, first off, thank you for your time this morning. Second off, I want to jump right into what's coming up here on November the 20th, because Connect to Culture is going to bring a little music and fun into our lives with what's called Schoolhouse Rock Live.
Yes, this is coming up fast. So if you want tickets, you better get them. This is a national touring children's theater show that basically is a Schoolhouse Rock reimagined for this generation. So it's all of those really fun short songs that teach you educational topics like counting and spelling and, you know, different grammatical issues. But it makes it fun. And do you remember watching Schoolhouse Rock?
Oh, absolutely.
As a kid?
Absolutely, I do.
So these are well-loved songs, and it's just a really fun, high-energy show. We're really lucky to have them. You know, they travel all over the United States performing. These are professional actors that, you know, are practicing. This is their profession. So we're lucky to have them on November 20th, which is a Saturday. And what's great about this is that we have two show times, 4 p.m. and 7 p.m. So it's really good for kids that have, you know, early bedtimes, and, you know, it's great for grades 1 through 5. That's kind of like the sweet spot, but, you know, kids of all ages are going to enjoy it too.
And once again, that's November 20th. It's up at Joplin High School. Emily, what's the importance of introducing a child that young to theater and performance art? What can that mean for them in the future?
It really just energizes them. In this case, it's, you know, kids are going to go away singing these songs and kind of be tricked into learning really useful information. But also, it's just really great for retention of information. You know, watching something live right in front of you versus watching it on a screen is, you know, there have been studies that say that you do retain more information, and it's just a richer experience. So this would be a wonderful first, you know, live children's theater show for any kid.
And once again, that's November 20th at 4 and 7, 2 performances at Joplin High School. And hey, speaking of that, you know, you could hit up the 4 o'clock performance, or if you want to go to another event on the 20th at 6 and then run over to Joplin High School, because Connect to Culture is also bringing us the Holiday Tree Trail Kickoff ceremony. And this is at Mercy Park, right?
Yes, this is, you know, we're almost getting into December, but this is right on the edge. This is the holiday tree trail that they have at Mercy Park every year. This is relatively new. They've only had it for a few years now, but they're kicking it off on Tuesday, November 30th at 6 p.m., but it will be up from then up until, the end of December. And it's just so much fun. They have different organizations and businesses that kind of adopt a tree. And these aren't real trees. They do bring in artificial trees and they decorate them and they place them along the Mercy Trail, which is just a wonderful park to walk around in. And the Rotary Sculpture Garden lives there. So you get to it's, two for the price of one. You get to go and witness these trees as well as the sculptures. It's just going to be magical and just get you really into the holiday spirit.
And the one thing that I really love about the Holiday Tree Trail is, once again, that's going to be Tuesday, November the 30th, and the ceremony itself from 6 to 8. But the fact that our sun's setting so early that we can get out there at a reasonable time and still take in how beautiful those trees look decorated. This one's free and open to everybody, correct?
Correct, yes. You just come and enjoy and take a walk.
And the reason that we're able to have great events like this, whether it be the Schoolhouse Rock Live that's on the 20th or the tree lighting ceremony that is on the 30th, it is a large part and thanks to people like Emily Frankowski in Connected Culture. Hey, I gotta go pay some bills, go to a commercial break, but can I ask you to come back because there's a tea light glass class and I have no idea what that means and I was gonna hope you could explain it to me.
I'll stay right here.
All right, we'll come back and visit more with Emily Frankowski of Connected Culture. KOAM Morning News back right after this. Going to be a cold one, especially tonight as our temperatures are going to drop below the freezing point. Bundle up, sunny of the weekend in the 50s.
Coming up, an Arkansas woman meets a tragic end after a fatal car crash. And McDonald County celebrates Veterans Day with a fun day in Pineville. Also, Pitt State hosts its Veterans Day celebration after a 2-year hiatus.
The 4 states' most watched news starts now.
Good morning and welcome to the KOAM Morning News. It is 6 a.m. I'm Tanya Bach. We'll get to those stories in just a minute, but first let's go to Michael Hayslip in the Skywatch Weather Center.
Good chilly Friday morning. Yeah, considerably cooler than what we had Monday through Wednesday, that is for sure. 43 degrees is where we stand right now. Over 7th and Rangeline in Joplin. A little bit of a wind chill in effect, so knock off about 3 to 4 degrees from everything that you see in your community as far as what it feels like when you walk out the door. 42 in Pittsburgh and Miami, 43 in Chanute, 41 right now in Monette and Cassville. The rain, just about a thing of the past. Still holding on to just some light rain coming down, especially south of I-44. But as it drops off to the southeast, won't affect any of your morning travel if you're getting ready to leave here in, say, the next half hour or so. Even with the sunshine, temperatures below normal. We should be around 60 degrees this time of year. We'll only make it up into the high 40s, but as the clouds move off, at least we'll get some sunshine to go with it. Clouds are going to reemerge for this afternoon, but I tell you what, if you are out and about this evening, bundle up. Our wind chills are going to drop down to the 30s, if not high 20s. Actual temperatures for tonight into tomorrow. Oh, that freezing point. Yeah, we're not going to be able to cling to it. We have freeze watches for the southern portions of the 4 states. Those are going to expand. We'll see those for pretty much everybody. And so we've given up on plants. If you haven't brought your plants in by now, I don't think you're clinging to any hope of them. Take care of your pets. That's one thing you and I have been harping on this morning.
Take care of your pets, yes.
Right.
It's a little cold out there, so.
Yeah, a little too cold overnight. You know, make sure they've got the proper bedding and the proper shelter. And here's what I say about the shelter, Tanya. Oh my God, I almost called you Caitlin. I apologize for that. That's my daughter's name, by the way. The wind is going to come in from the northwest, and it's going to gust at 25 miles per hour. And so that's why when I talk about shelter, yeah, make sure that they've got something to block that wind for them.
For sure. All right, thanks, Michael. Well, a Gravitt, Arkansas woman is dead after a crash in southwest Missouri. The Highway Patrol says Robin Ford drove off the road on Interstate 49 west of Neosho and hit an embankment. Ford died at the scene. No other cars were involved. A Newton County man accused of shooting at deputies pleads guilty. Benjamin Ivy pleaded guilty to unlawful possession of a firearm. 2 other charges were dropped as part of the plea deal. Ivy is sentenced to 7 years in prison. 5 Oklahoma Republican state lawmakers want Governor Kevin Stitt to grant clemency to Julius Jones, who is scheduled for execution next week. Among the 5 are 2 state House members representing the Oklahoma City suburb where Paul Howell was shot to death during a 1999 carjacking. Jones was convicted of Howell's killing and sentenced to death, but he has long maintained his innocence. Jones alleges he was framed by his co-defendant, who testified against Jones and served 15 years in prison. The Oklahoma Pardon and Parole Board voted 3-1 to recommend that Stitt commute Jones's sentence to life in prison. 4 state first responders come together to honor one of their own. Baxter Springs firefighter Malachi Brown had been fighting for his life in a burn unit in Springfield after he was badly injured battling a mid-October structure fire in Baxter. Wednesday night, Brown succumbed to those injuries, and yesterday a procession of vehicles from various 4 state first responders escorted his body back home to Baxter Springs.
There's a brotherhood between all agencies, between fire, police, EMS. We had all agencies out helping support us getting him back home.
You'll learn what the Baxter Springs Fire Department thinks about the community's outreach and support a little bit later in the show. People across the country honored our nation's heroes this Veterans Day. McDonald County hosted a Veterans Day ceremony in Pineville. The event featured a free dinner, VIP speakers, and fireworks. There was also a special announcement. Veteran James Tatum was inducted into the Missouri Veterans Hall of Fame. Carthage native served heroically in the Korean War as an Army officer and later as a civilian helped found Crowder College.
I think it's a pretty big deal. I mean, nothing like this has ever happened. To put it into perspective, General John Gordon, who was a former Secretary of Homeland Security, and the 33rd President, Harry Truman, are also in this Hall of Fame with Jim, so it's a pretty big deal.
The McDonald County celebration took place in the Pineville Square. Folks in Joplin got a little more hands-on to honor our local veterans. The Joplin Area Habitat for Humanity is honoring a local vet by providing him a place to stay. Habitat yesterday dedicated a new home to Tim P. and his family.
But today, there's nothing in the world that can replace the feeling of having hundreds of people come out to visit you that don't know your first name. Come out to show their appreciation and to say thank you.
We know your name now, Tim, and we thank you. Well, the home will be constructed using ICFs, or insulating concrete forms. ICFs are a sustainable construction method. Like we said, yesterday was Veterans Day. For many communities and organizations, it was the first time in the pandemic era that they could hold traditional Veterans Day events. That was the case at PSU. The university hosted its ceremony for the first time since 2019 with veterans and families in attendance.
It's a special day that we need to remember and take time to appreciate what we have, the sacrifices that soldiers and individuals, both on the civilian side but also in the military, that serve our country on a daily basis, whether domestically or abroad.
This year's keynote speaker was Pittsburgh Fire Chief Dennis Riley, who was a U.S. Army veteran and who was also at Ground Zero on 9/11. 6:07.
Yeah, don't be confused when we talk about the watches and warnings that we have out right now, because it looks like the National Weather Service out of Springfield, they're going to hold it to what's called a hazardous weather outlook. So it's like, well, it's going to freeze tonight. We just might not put your county in purple. So please know that it is going to be a chilly one. Now this afternoon, we're going to be able to make it up into the high 40s. Plenty of sunshine. It's going to be a delightful looking day. But once again, overnight is what we're talking about, as we're down below the freezing point with northwest gusts of 25 plus miles per hour, and freeze watches officially indicated there in the purple. Good looking weekend. We'll get some sunshine. Temperatures in the 50s. Look at that little warm trend that we have. It's short-lived, but it's going to be nice for the middle of next week. Just got to ride some freezing temperatures for tonight into tomorrow morning.
All right, that's a look at this morning's top stories in weather in our first 7 minutes. Coming up on the KOAM Morning News, Connect to Culture has more in store for us. Stick around and find out what that is. Plus, Colorado has a plan to make sure if their beds ever get full to have more beds for COVID patients. And are you wanting a Christmas tree this year? We're talking about a live one. Better get it quick, as there's a supply chain shortage even affecting the jolliest holiday of the year. You're watching the KOAM Morning News. More real news in the morning. We'll be right back. In Consumer Watch this morning, Christmas trees have always been a staple for the holidays, but what will happen if you can't get a Christmas tree this year? Noel Williams has more on what you can do to get ahead of your Christmas tree shopping.
It's been crazy. Joni Smith owns Yule Log Cabin, and she says customers are already on the hunt for Christmas trees, but she's not sure if there'll be enough to last to December.
The demand is up because people are going back to nature. So those things put together make Christmas trees to be a shortage for the next couple of years.
She says many Christmas tree farms closed during the 2008 recession, and since trees take years to grow, it's trickled down to her own supply. Her clientele has jumped almost 40% this year, and trees are going out quicker than they're coming in.
Right now, about 60% of the trees are already reserved. So and the big trees are the ones over 8 feet are the ones that are going to be extremely difficult to find.
Local Christmas tree farmer Steve Meyer is also expecting more customers.
Last year, we saw a surge of young families coming out and trying to have an experience of having the real Christmas once again instead of the artificial tree. We anticipate that to happen again.
At Meyer Horseshoe Pine, they grow and sell their own trees. But I'm told they're expecting big crowds this year, and that may make their selection just a bit smaller.
The person who grows their own tree will know approximately how many they want to have prepared for each year. This year, we're hoping to have close to 1,500 trees available.
Smith plans to have wreaths and other decorations available, but she suggests folks purchase their trees sooner than later.
I suspect Thanksgiving weekend, that'll be it.
Live Local Now, Noel Williams.
Stocks were mixed on Thursday. The Dow lost 158 points. The Nasdaq gained 81. The S&P 500 added 2. Shares of electric vehicle maker Rivian have rallied 57% since going public on Wednesday. The sharp rise is based largely on expectations. Rivian hopes to produce just 1,000 vehicles by the end of the year, but it's backed by Amazon and Ford. MoviePass is getting a sequel. The movie ticket subscription service shut down in 2019 after hemorrhaging money. According to court documents reviewed by Business Insider, a New York bankruptcy court approved a bid by its original co-founder, Stacy Spikes. He hopes to relaunch the service next year. Well, Justin Bieber and Tim Hortons are teaming up on Timbits with 3 new flavors of the bite-sized donuts. I'm trying to read this without rolling my eyes. The collaboration will be known as Tim Biebs. Oh, how creative. The flavors: chocolate, white fudge, sour cream chocolate chip, and birthday cake waffle will be available starting November 29th for a limited time in the U.S. and Canada. He can juggle donuts. That's impressive. A slowdown in streaming dings Disney. The entertainment juggernaut says 2.1 million people signed up for Disney Plus in its latest quarter. But that was less than expected, and higher than expected costs led to an operating loss of $65 million. That's it for Consumer Watch. We'll be right back.
Welcome back to the KOAM Morning News. Earlier, we caught up with Emily Frankowski, Emily behind Connect to Culture in Joplin, that brings us marvelous events, classes, performances, the whole nine, and art exhibits as well. And through the month of September, Emily, you've got something that really piqued my interest, because I love driving through, go back to my sports days, I love driving through small towns and just kind of envisioning how they got there in the first place, who lives there. And I guess that you've actually been able to bring a photography exhibit to us throughout the month of November, kind of displaying these towns.
Yes, this is Missouri Southern State University Spiva Art Gallery is hosting this event, and it's an exhibit from now until the 19th of November. So you need to get over there and take a look at it. It's Point and Periphery, photographs from small Missouri towns by photographer Jimmy Allen. And what he's done is he's gone and captured, I think, over 100 different small towns in Missouri. And so you get to see all of these photographs, and what he's trying to point out is, the identity and the character of these small towns. Some of them are, really revitalizing themselves and investing in the community, while others are not doing as well. And he's really trying to point out those different things within in those cities. And I think that we've all, taken a good road trip through Missouri and can attest to this fact. And so it'll be a really introspective exhibit and just really fun to see all of those different small towns in Missouri.
What kind of gave you the heads up, Connect to Culture and the Spiva Gallery there at Missouri Southern? What kind of gave you the heads up about Jimmy Allen and the way he's able to convey different places through a lens?
Yeah, I think that the Missouri Southern State University, they have a curatorial staff that does research about different artists or might have connections with these artists, the teachers that work there. And so I think that they usually kind of take all of that into their planning for different exhibits that go on. But they've definitely found something special in Jimmy Allen. So you should get over there and take a look.
And the one more thing that I wanted to ask you about before we get out of here, and thank you for your time once again, and because I've been practicing this phrase all morning long in anticipation of this. Tea light glass class. Got it. Now it could be me and a bunch of kids that are 9 and up. That's fine with me, because sometimes my artistic level is way below theirs anyway. But what is Tea Light Glass class?
Yeah, so this is happening this Saturday, November 13th. So if you want to attend this, you better, sign up now. But it's going to be a lot of fun with Jane McCauley, who is a renowned glass artist in the area. And basically, a tea light is just a small little light they usually see with a little, what they're called tea lights, just a very short little candle inside. And I love them. I have them all over my house, but I have never made my own. So she will teach you how to work with glass and make your very own, different colors. And she usually fires the work once it's done, because they have to heat up the glass to kind of meld the colors together. And then you'll probably come and pick them up later. It's only $35, and you get to learn from a master glass artist and get to take something home and get ready for the holidays.
Well, and Emily, like you said, tea candles, they're just practical and they're beautiful to have around. So how cool would it be to actually have you and the kids, run out there on Saturday? And once again, this is we need to all register now. But by the time like Emily said, the time the holidays roll around, you can point to something on the shelf and be like, "Hey, me and the kids, we made that together."
It will be a great gift too. And the great part about it's being hosted at Local Color Art Gallery and Studio, and they have, over 10 different local artists working there, where you can do some Christmas shopping at the same time.
I like the way you think. Emily Frankowski of Connect to Culture. Emily, it's always great to see you. I can't thank you enough for your time, and I can't thank you enough for what your organization does to bring us not a fair amount of culture, a great deal of culture into our lives. We greatly appreciate you and the organization.
Thank you. We love coming on. Thanks for supporting the arts.
Absolutely. We'll be back with more KOM Morning News right after this.
Topping Health Watch this morning, COVID has pushed hospital capacities to the max. And while Colorado hasn't reached full capacity in its hospitals, they have a plan if they do. Karen Morfitt has more on their plan.
Well, Colorado health officials are taking every step to avoid reaching hospital capacity. They're also planning for when we do.
It's not going to be the same when we built thousands of beds and they were standalone facilities.
Instead of seeing makeshift hospitals like we did when the pandemic began, long-term care facilities already in operation will be a focus for patients in recovery.
We've identified several that have capacity, either a wing they can't operate or a floor they can't operate.
Help that is needed now. In a statement, UC Health says, quote, "We have a large number of patients who are healthy enough to be discharged to a long-term care facility. It has been difficult to transfer some of those patients, as some of the long-term care facilities and nursing homes may not be able to take additional patients." Doug Farmer with the Colorado Healthcare Association says their providers want to help, but they're facing some of the same challenges.
Staff, 100% staff. We just simply don't have
the workforce, that we don't have the personnel to provide care.
He says they're working with the state now on who could be called on to man those extra beds and how to pay for them.
Using traveling nurses from other states, also potentially leaning on some federal government resources.
Under the governor's direction, they now have 30 to 45 days to figure it out before we reach our predicted peak.
Food and Drug Administration announced a recall of more than 2 million Illum COVID-19 home tests. Agency says the kits from an Australian biotech company have the potential for returning false positive results. The faulty tests were manufactured between February 24th and August 11th of this year. A new study finds COVID-19 has caused troubling delays in catching cancer in children and young people. Study at the University of Oxford says during the first wave of the pandemic, the number of cancers found in young patients dropped 17% compared to previous years. By the time they were diagnosed, those patients were twice as likely to have already been admitted to intensive care. Even during a global pandemic, exercise may be the key to better mental health. A study at Kaiser Permanente found people who exercised more during the initial lockdowns experienced less anxiety and depression. The same goes for people who spent more time outdoors. Researchers say the findings show parks and nature areas should remain open during public health emergencies. That's a look at some of today's top health stories. You're watching the KOAM Morning News.
A little bit chilly outside right now. Temperatures as low as 39 degrees up in the northwest. For the most part, low 40s. Even with the sunshine, only, we can get there eventually. Hey, even with the sunshine, only up into the high 40s, below the freezing mark later on tonight.
Coming up, an Arkansas woman meets a tragic end after a fatal car crash. And McDonald County celebrates Veterans Day with a fun day in Pineville. Also, Pitt State hosts its Veterans Day celebration after a 2-year hiatus.
The 4 states' most watched news starts now.
Good morning and welcome to the KOAM Morning News. It is 6:30. I'm Tanya Bach. We'll get to those stories in just a moment, but first, let's go to Michael Hayslip in the Skywatch Weather Center.
As we inch closer to sunrise, kind of a neat shot outside of Television City. Now we've got some clouds obscuring the sunshine, but still, as it begins to creep over the horizon right there, we'll make for some interesting colors here as we get closer to 6:54, which will be sunrise over Joplin, which sits at 43 degrees right now over 7th and Rangeline. That wind is coming in pretty good from the west, and that will take about 3 to 4 degrees off our actual temperatures compared to what it feels like. So not a big discrepancy as far as our wind chills, as we range anywhere from 39 in Iola and Yates Center, 42 in Pittsburgh and Miami, and 43 and Lamar and Carthage. So everybody pretty much grouped close together. Lost the heavy rain down to the southeast, as that's where everything dropped off to. Going to see a little bit more residual light rain that's going to roll through the southwestern portion of Ottawa County and then kind of the central portion of Delaware County and northeast Oklahoma. Everybody else going to remain on the dry side. Throw the cloud cover on there and you can tell up to the north, that's why it's cooler, because there are no clouds. As far as the national perspective goes, there's that one line that rolled through overnight, and like I said, instead of it working from west to east, it's actually dropping to the southwest or southeast. So what that will do for us is make for a delightful sunny morning, albeit a cool one. Even with the sunshine, going to top out around the noon hour. That's extremely early for our temperatures to top out at, but yeah, we'll kind of be stuck around the high 40s at that point in time. And that's an indicator of what's to come tonight, because as the temperatures continue to drop, we will be below that freezing point for early Saturday morning. So even though the freeze watches are indicated in purple down to the south, please know that everybody is going to get a good shot of some cool weather. Sunny skies though over the weekend, highs in the 50s, not too bad, and then a warming trend to begin next week.
Looking forward to that warming trend. I hope it doesn't dip down at the end of the week again like it is this week.
It's kind of a quick warming trend, but I mean, it'll be nice to be back into the 70s. And look at that overnight low in between Tuesday and Wednesday. 60 degrees.
I'll take that.
That's double of what we're going to see for our overnight low tonight.
For sure. All right, thanks, Michael. Well, a Gravette, Arkansas woman is dead after a crash in southwest Missouri. The Highway Patrol says Robin Ford drove off the road on Interstate 49 west of Neosho and hit an embankment. Ford died at the scene. No other cars were involved. A Newton County man accused of shooting at deputies pleads guilty. Benjamin Ivy pleaded guilty to unlawful possession of a firearm. 2 other charges were dropped as part of the plea deal. Ivy is sentenced to 7 years in prison. 5 Oklahoma Republican state lawmakers want Governor Kevin Stitt to grant clemency to Julius Jones, who is scheduled for execution next week. Among the 5 are 2 state House members representing the Oklahoma City suburb where Paul Howell was shot to death during a 1999 carjacking. Jones was convicted of Howell's killing and sentenced to death, but he has long maintained his innocence. Jones alleges he was framed by his co-defendant who testified against Jones and served 15 years in prison. The Oklahoma Pardon and Parole Board voted 3-1 to recommend that Stitt commute Jones's sentence to life in prison. 4 state first responders came together in Baxter Springs yesterday to honor one of their own following the passing of Baxter Springs firefighter Malachi Brown. KOM's Mike Mahoney spoke to the Baxter Springs fire chief and has more.
On Wednesday night, Baxter Springs firefighter Malachi Brown succumbed to the injuries he received battling a mid-October structure fire. On Thursday, representatives from multiple 4 state first responders formed a procession at a burn unit in Springfield to bring Brown back to Baxter Springs, and they had a lot of support along the way.
I want to thank all the agencies that helped us get him home. It was a long trip from Springfield, and all the way from Springfield all the way to Baxter Springs, we had agencies on overpasses with flags standing on the side of the road supporting us.
Brown was brought back to the Derfelt Funeral Home's Baxter Chapel, where friends, family, fellow firefighters, and first responders gathered to say goodbye to a man who sacrificed his life protecting the community he loved.
I'd like to thank all the communities around to help and support us, and I'd like to thank the family and everybody in the community. Please say a prayer tonight for his family and his children.
In Baxter Springs, Kansas, Mike Mahoney, KOAM News.
Baxter Springs Fire Lieutenant Malachi Brown leaves behind a wife and 3 children. People across the country honored our nation's heroes this Veterans Day. McDonald County hosted a Veterans Day ceremony in Pineville. The event featured a free dinner, VIP speakers, and fireworks. There was also a special announcement. Veteran James Tatum was inducted into the Missouri Veterans Hall of Fame. The Carthage native served heroically in the Korean War as an Army officer and later as a civilian, helped found Crowder College.
I think it's a pretty big deal. I mean, nothing like this has ever happened. To put it into perspective, General John Gordon, who was a former Secretary of Homeland Security, and the 33rd President, Harry Truman, are also in this Hall of Fame with Jim, so it's a pretty big deal.
McDonald County celebration took place in the Pineville Square. For many communities and organizations, this was the first time in the pandemic era they could hold traditional Veterans Day events, and that was the case at PSU. The university hosted its ceremony for the first time since 2019, with veterans and families in attendance.
It's a special day that we need to remember and take time to appreciate what we have, the sacrifices that soldiers and individuals, both on the civilian side but also in the military, that serve our country on a daily basis, whether domestically or abroad.
This year's keynote speaker was Pittsburgh Fire Chief Dennis Riley, who is a U.S. Army veteran and was at Ground Zero on 9/11. That's a look at our top news stories. Coming up this half hour in the KOAM Morning News, the Rittenhouse trial is finally coming to a close. We'll have the latest updates on the trial and what could be expected from it. Plus, kids are great, but sometimes they do the most embarrassing things for you. We want to know, has your child ever embarrassed you in public? We're going to let you weigh in, but first, it's 6:37.
Chief's a great guy. I'm so glad that they were able to honor him in that way because the things that he's done are absolutely amazing. You ever run into the chief? You want to ask him about fire education and training. I'll tell you what, that gentleman is a wealth of knowledge. Our weather trend for today, going to have a lot of sunshine, but here's the thing. We're only going to be up into the high 40s. Got a cold front lingering over us that is not going to give up. And so what that's going to do is actually drop our temperatures below the freezing point here overnight in the Saturday morning. to the point where we're talking about freeze washes down to the south. And it really doesn't matter if your county is indicated in the freeze watch or not. Please know that it is going to be extremely cold if you're out and about. Kind of our first bout of one of those where our wind chills are going to drop into the mid to low 20s here overnight if you're up and going and you got early Saturday morning plans. Nice looking weekend though. We'll be up into the low to mid 50s on Saturday and Sunday, and then a little bump in the temperatures. How about that warming trend for the beginning of next week? We'll be back with Nation Watch right after this.
Topping Nation Watch this morning, Kyle Rittenhouse's trial is nearly over. More than 30 witnesses spoke over the past 2 weeks. Now only closing arguments are left before it goes to the jury. CBS's Bradley Blackburn has details on what the jury has heard.
We would rest. The defense rested its case Thursday in the trial of Kyle Rittenhouse. The jury returns Monday to hear closing arguments.
We're in the final stretch.
Rittenhouse is facing up to life in prison. He's charged with 6 criminal counts, including intentional and reckless homicide.
Park is closed.
During protests in August 2020 following the police shooting of Jacob Blake, Rittenhouse traveled from his home in Illinois to Kenosha, Wisconsin, where he carried a rifle that he was not legally allowed to have at 17 years old. That night, he fatally shot 2 men and injured a third. Now 18, Rittenhouse says he was acting in self-defense.
The person that attacked me first threatened to kill me twice.
On the stand earlier this week, he broke down while describing what happened.
There were 3 people right there.
CBS News analyst Ricky Kleeman says that could be a focal point for jurors.
Emotional impact is really critical in a case of self-defense.
Prosecutors argued Rittenhouse is responsible for the violence.
The only person who killed anyone was the defendant.
Each side will have 2.5 hours for closing arguments. Bradley Blackburn, CBS News.
The prosecution is expected to ask the judge to allow the jury to consider lesser charges for some of the counts. Deliberations are likely to begin Monday afternoon. More than 48 years ago, a gruesome serial killer was revealed in Texas. From 1970 to 1973, Dean Corll, or the Candy Man, along with his accomplices Elmer Wayne Henley and David Brooks, raped, tortured, and killed at least 28 young boys. The murders only stopped when Henley turned on Corll and killed him. Now, there's been rumors of at least 20 more victims. Wednesday sparked a dig of what was believed to have bodies of those alleged victims. However, nothing was found, but there's more to dig in that area still. That's a look at today's top national stories. Let's check back in with Michael for our Something to Talk About.
Thank you, Tanya. This morning on the KOAM News Now Facebook page in our morning Insta poll, the Prime Minister of New Zealand, in the midst of a press briefing, of course, doing it Zoom, kid decided that, her 3-year-old decided that, yeah, Mom, I need something. Because when moms or dads are home, and you have to remember being 3, she's like, well, yeah, if I need something, I go to Mom or Dad. It doesn't matter that Mom is the leader of the country. It's in the middle of a Zoom meeting, and quite classic, and we've seen it happen time and time again through the Zoom and Skype era that we're in. Our question to you this morning, has a child ever embarrassed you in public? And 63% of you say yes, it's happened. 12% of you seem to get out unscathed. I'm curious to see how that's happened. Nobody says way too often, and that's because when we get home, we laugh about it, right? It's great. All right, we're going to come back and celebrate birthdays and anniversaries right after this.
We take this time to honor today's 4-state hero, Sergeant Daniel Barnett. Quapaw, Oklahoma native, served in the U.S. Army. We are proud to salute Sergeant Daniel Barnett, today's 4-state hero.
We begin our birthday list. So Colston, I know you're only 2, man, but like if you're gonna show up looking like that, like you can come help this dude dress any day of the week. That's a rockin' bow tie right there. Colston celebrating the big number 2 out in Fredonia.
I'm digging the curls and the blue eyes.
I know.
Like
the whole 9.
he is put together.
That is sharp.
Yes. Job, Mom.
Whoa! I heard that.
Okay, Dad.
Okay. All right. Now we're on equal footing. Thank you. I mean, something like, look. Just because Caitlin showed up at preschool one time with shoes on the wrong feet, it doesn't mean that I screwed up all the time. And you still hang that over my head. Would you just let it go?
We could look at Colston's picture all day. What a cutie there. What a cutie. Moving on, though.
There's Chloe. I knew we'd bring her back.
Yeah. Her birthday was actually yesterday, but we didn't have her picture. So now we're going to show you beautiful little Chloe Harriman, who's now 11 years old in Girard.
Chloe, we were not going to forget you. We're going to celebrate your birthday all the way through the weekend, kiddo. Colin Ard is celebrating his 12th birthday, and looks like he's got big brother skills right there. Colin, a happy 12th to you and Moran.
Good big brother, yeah. Jolie O'Brien, turning 17 years old this year. Great picture there of Jolie in Edna, Kansas.
Amber Knobloch, she is celebrating her 32nd birthday. Amber, a very happy birthday to you. She's in Pittsburgh.
All right, and Trina Ashmore.
I didn't know there was both of them.
Yeah, so we've
I
got
would have kept going. I had no
Amber
idea.
and Trina. And Trina is in Frontenac. Happy birthday.
I'm not sure which is on the left and which is on the right, but Amber and Trina, very happy birthdays to the both of you. Mark Thompson, he is celebrating his 61st birthday. Mark, I want you to have a great weekend. He's in Pittsburgh.
All right, happy birthday, Mark.
You got to carry the next three of these, okay? Because you got some splaining to do.
All right, well, we'll start with the man in the middle there, Mr. Paul Ballou, who will be celebrating over the weekend, but his birthday is actually on Monday, up in Fort Scott, turning 62 years old. And then we have his grandson, Dylan, who's now 7 strong, and his granddaughter, and of course, Dylan's older sister, Maya Chaplin, who's now 8 years old. So Paul and Dylan's birthdays are actually on Monday, but Maya's birthday is today. What a fun weekend it's going to be.
Party on in Fort Scott, huh?
Yeah.
The party is on. That's great. Chuck Buck, a very happy birthday. Oh, at the old ball field. I know it well, my friend. A happy birthday to Chuck in Frontenac.
In Humboldt, Kansas, Lizzie Black is celebrating a birthday, and that is definitely something to cheer about.
There we
Happy
go,
birthday,
a little
Lizzie.
Humboldt Cub pride right there. I love that.
I like
Lizzie,
it. I like
special,
that they got CBS on in the background behind her, too.
Oh, does you? Hold on. Let me
I'm pretty
walk
sure
up.
that's Nora O'Donnell in the
Let me
background.
walk up and say, no, is that Nora behind her?
It looks like Nora.
Oh, that's hilarious.
Yes, that's the CBS eye. We notice things.
That's great. Lizzie, hey, Steve Hollingsworth says happy birthday to Lizzie Black as well. Humboldt Cub pride right there. That's awesome.
Happy birthday, Lizzie.
Heidi Turner. I love the way that name is spelled. Heidi, I had not seen that before, and it's a gorgeous looking picture. A very happy birthday to you in Parsons.
That's a great picture there. And Carol Pack.
Oh, Miss Carol.
Celebrated yesterday, and probably all weekend long too, why not? In Thayer, Kansas.
Happy birthday, Carol. On to some anniversaries. Cole and Courtney Edwards, they are celebrating their first anniversary, and what a marvelous picture right there. Cole and Courtney, congratulations. They're celebrating in Fredonia.
All right, and Harvey and Marie Clark are celebrating their 53rd anniversary this year. What a great picture there of the Clarks. They are in Columbus.
Hey, do you remember one of the birthdays we did yesterday with somebody's mom?
Yes.
Well, that person's mom had a birthday yesterday, and that wonderful daughter has a birthday today. That is our own Diane Cunningham. That's right, yesterday we had her mother on who is celebrating her birthday, and our senior marketing consultant, Diane Cunningham, is celebrating her birthday today. Diane, you know that the shows don't go on without your wonderful work. We absolutely love and adore you. And looking at that picture of her mom yesterday, I said the smile, you said the eyes, and yeah, it is so true. They are almost spitting images right there. Happy birthday, Diane, and a whole lot of love from all of us here. Jessica Commons, a happy 31st birthday to Jessica in Cherokee. Clifton Jarrett celebrating a birthday. Clifton is in Baxter Springs.
And we've got Janice.
No, I was pausing because I'm like, sans picture. I'll get to the bottom of it. Janice Gaither, we love you. A very happy birthday in Columbus. Yeah, go ahead.
Making sure you weren't pausing again.
No, I was pausing because I'm like, Gaither family, come
Behind
on.
the scenes, I have to look around the camera to see you.
I know.
So.
Gaither family.
All right, so we've got Mandy Schmeltzer celebrating in Columbus. Barbara Wicks turning 73 in Nevada.
Hey, the Dunnicks.
Yeah, the Dunnicks. John and Patty in Columbus. Happy anniversary.
You know why they call it? Prescott? That's where Roger Bloomfield is. Do you know why they call it Prescott?
Why is that?
Because if you're coming out of Kansas City, it comes before Fort Scott. You got Prescott, and then you got Fort Scott.
And another behind the scenes. You can see me rolling my
Roger
eyes.
Broomfield, a very happy birthday to you in Prescott. Rose Cherry, she is celebrating in Miami. And Elmer Sanders, a very happy birthday in Commerce. Happy birthday and happy anniversary to all on this November the 12th. Maybe it's the 13th, 14th, or some of you, like we had with the Ballou Chaplin family on the 15th. Now, here's Tanya Bach with a very important birthday announcement.
That's right. So you can be a part of the KOAM Birthday Club. All you have to do is go to our website at KOAMnewsnow.com and sign up for the KOAM Birthday Club today. Here's a check of today's top headlines, the news you need to know before you head out the door. Folks in Joplin get hands-on to honor our local veterans. The Joplin Area Habitat for Humanity is honoring a local vet by providing him a place to stay. Habitat yesterday dedicated a new home to Tim P. and his family. For many communities and organizations, this was the first time in the pandemic era they could hold traditional Veterans Day events. And that was the case at PSU. The university hosted its ceremony for the first time since 2019 with veterans and families in attendance. In Fort Scott, the Tourism Board decided to cancel this year's parade, but the American Legion Post 25 was not going to let that happen. The Post took over the parade and yesterday hosted it for area veterans and their families. Sheepdog Impact Assistance yesterday broke ground on a new facility that'll help veterans in times of crisis. It's called a Warrior Path Facility. PATH meaning progressive and alternative training for healing heroes. When complete, the facility in Pineville, Missouri will provide tools to help combat veterans and first responders struggling with PTSD, depression, anxiety, and other challenges. That's a check of today's top headlines, the news you need to know before you head out the door.
We've got temperatures ranging as low as 38 in Iola and all the way up to 45 is what we're seeing out in southeast Kansas. Joplin sits at 43 along with Carthage, and Pittsburgh sits at 42 along with Miami. Sunshine today, but still the cold front going to be kind of dominating us throughout the afternoon hours, so only 47. If you have afternoon/evening/nighttime plans, bundle up. We're going to drop below the freezing point with a northwest wind and gusts of 25 miles per hour. Freeze watch for counties in the purple, but even if your county is not indicated, please know that it is going to be cold tonight. We get a little bit better during the weekend. We'll go low to mid 50s on Saturday and Sunday with plenty of sunshine, and then a nice little warm up there for the beginning of next week.
All right, well, coming up today at noon, we're making chocolate pecan fudgy pie in the Mr. Food Test Kitchen.
And of course, your morning news continues on KOAM. We have the CBS Morning News. That's coming up next.
Or you can switch on over with us on Fox 14, where your only local morning news continues. This morning, COVID vaccination rates may be up for kids, but there's also the worry about measles.
Get outside, enjoy some fresh air, but remember, bring a coat, especially if you're out tonight. Do me a favor, be safe, have a great weekend. We'll do this all again on Monday morning.
And we'll do it again today at noon.